Coming to you from the studios at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66, it's the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Rock and roll Chicago, rock and roll Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock the city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best here out around.
Hey, everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike.
A little nasally Hollywood Mike.
Very, very hoarse, nasally.
Yeah, a little allergies.
Yeah, something like that is kicking in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably allergies because I've been taking like the Claritin stuff in the morning. It clears it up for a little bit. Then nighttime comes around and it's like somebody kicked me in the throat. But
Yeah,
that's all right.
It's kind of like a radio voice, kind of sultry,
kinda, yeah.
some voiceovers.
Yeah, exactly. Like there used to be a show on Showtime where it was like this sexy Barry White kind of radio host guy. And I believe it was called Midnight Caller or something like that.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's funny funny you should say that because the band we're talking to tonight is the Midnight Call.
Wait, Barry White is here?
I don't think so.
Take off that Brazil idea.
How you doing, guys?
How's it going?
We're doing great.
Then all right.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us by.
Let's go around the circle and introduce yourselves and tell everybody what you guys do in the band.
Sean Barnes, bass player.
All right.
I'm Taran de Pablos. I'm the singer.
I knew that when I listened to their track.
Yep.
I knew it. I heard him speak and I was like, that's got to be the singer.
Yep.
Yeah. So at what point in time did you start taking hormones? Gosh, I heard that vocal track. I was like, what the heck, man? Holy jeez. That's a high pitched voice, man. You got a big range.
A very young age.
Yeah. Excellent.
And Tony McQuaid, guitar.
Tony McQuaid. You always got to have one guy with three names in the band, just in case the name of the band doesn't attract people.
Or you're a serial killer.
Yeah.
They all
In
got
case
three
you don't
names,
want
too.
to be found, it's always good.
Right. I am going to jump right into it.
Jump.
Holy shit. I listened to that track that you guys sent over. I am a fan.
Yeah.
Holy crap,
good.
man. It was kind of like I don't know if people tell you this, but the first thing that hit me was, damn, these guys sound like Blackberry Smoke.
Yeah.
Then I heard a little bit of like Buck Cherry in there. And then he starts singing. I was like, oh, well, that's Vince Neil. So it's kind of like,
Interesting. I haven't heard that one.
yeah,
I'll try my best not to take it as an insult.
much younger.
I was going to say, we hope that's Vince Neil from 1982.
Yeah, Vince Neil from 1982.
All right.
Exactly.
Good then.
Yeah. So take us down the road. Start all the way back at the beginning. How'd this whole thing come about?
I grew up in Spain and I came to the country in 98 and I've been playing in all the bands and stuff. And through a common friend, Dave Horniak, he's a drummer, ended up joining this tribute band called Black Angus, and Tony and Adam play in that band. And it was always on the back of my head because I knew who they were. At some point I have to ask these guys to write some rock and roll with me.
Right. So what kind of music was that then in Black Angus?
It's an AC/DC tribute band.
It was like, I was guessing he had to have been at one point in time in an AC/DC tribute band because I heard that.
Bon Scott era.
Yeah.
Bon Scott era only, yes.
Man, these guys are picky about their singers. Jeez.
No, I got no problem with Brian. It's just our favorite stuff is the early stuff.
We'll only play You Shook Me All Night Long for the tourists.
Oh, yeah.
We will do it. We'll do it.
Right. So David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
Oh, it's definitely it's definitely David Lee Roth. No, I know I can't swear on the radio here, but somebody wants to
sure you can.
Oh, sure. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
This is the internet.
This is the
Internet.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to describe David Lee Roth era Van Halen as fucking and Sammy Hagar is making love. And I agree with that analogy 100% because the Dave stuff was nice and dirty in the way it should have been.
I don't know. I don't want to imagine myself doing that with either one of those guys.
Yeah. No.
But come on. I mean, have you seen David Lee Roth lately? So again, you have to put that asterisk. David Lee Roth circa 1980.
I love new David. He's hilarious, man. I follow his channel. I think he's the best.
Have you seen I think it was just posted today. He's doing some kind of tap dance routine to oh my God, that's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, dance house music or something.
Yeah. If I went to my kids and said, hey guys, this used to be the front man of Van Halen, they'd be like, yeah right.
Yeah. Really? Yeah.
I mean, somehow it doesn't surprise me. I mean, those, Half a Teacher as the video where they're wearing the pink tuxedos and the dancing. That looks like tap dancing to me.
Oh, yeah.
You don't hear it, but it kind of looks like it.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
So I didn't mean to interrupt anything, but start over again. So you come from Spain. It's like 1989. Did you join a band right away?
It was 1998.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in a few bands and mostly doing metal actually, and because there's few singers that can do melodic metal and reach and sing that high and stuff, but it's not.
Right.
I always wanted to be frontman of a rock and roll band, and those were not. So I ended up leaving my last metal band, and these guys finally, because I would bring up the stuff. Let's write some songs together, and Tony would kind of dismiss it. Like what? Like with Black Angus, what's the point? We play AC/DC stuff, and I ended up convincing them. But the idea was for them to send me stuff. Their riffs, their ideas, and I would write on top of them melodies and stuff, but they weren't doing it. So that took another extra 3 or 4 months, and then I just sent them a demo that I had of a song that I wrote, and they loved it, and they said, do you have more? And I just said, yes, but you have to send me something so we can write together, and then that's how it started. And then from then, it took probably another year till we actually had a show and we played. So.
Right. So metal wasn't your like genre of choice, I guess. You prefer not to do metal? Is that the thing?
No, I love metal, but I've been doing it since I was in my teens, and I'm 50 now.
Okay.
So,
One thing I found interesting. So, we were doing the Black Angus thing, and I wasn't really doing original rock and roll at the time. And Taran brought up, he's like, hey, do you want to do some songs or do some original stuff like he was saying? And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Whatever. And then when he did send the stuff over, him and Adam kind of started. Yeah, Adam was the other guitar player, by the way, Adam Arling. And they kind of got it rolling, so Adam was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do, play some original music. So when Taran sent some stuff over to me, I loved the song so much, like he was saying, and I didn't realize that he was a rock singer full on. Okay. Right. So I've seen him play prior, and not only in the AC/DC band tribute band that we're doing, but in other bands he was doing, original bands and other things he was doing. So I didn't really picture him in that role. And then once I heard the music, I was like, oh, wow. So it was really cool, and then at first I was very apprehensive about doing an original rock project. I've done a bunch in my time playing music, and I wasn't sure if I would be 100% into it, but I couldn't deny it. And it was really fun, so we're just having a blast. And it really comes from the core of the songwriting, Taran's ideas. And I was already loving playing with him as a person and his voice and everything in the Black Angus band. But once I heard the material, I was like, I got to do this. I'm like, I'd be an idiot not to, so it was really cool and inspirational. But I never really knew he was a rock singer. I thought he was a metal singer.
Yeah. And so, forgive my, I guess, lack of knowledge of what type of music actually was accessible to you in Spain as far as what came from the United States. But I saw a description somewhere that you kind of described your music as kind of like Southern rock or rock and roll. And I could definitely hear that Southern rock influence as well. Like Blackberry Smoke's my favorite band. So I heard that. I heard that sound. I heard that sound.
Mine also, Mike. Mine also.
Yeah. Is that something that you had been exposed to and said, I would love to be in a Southern rock band? Was that kind of the intentions, or did it just happen by happy accident?
Well, I was born in the 70s. And for those of your listeners that may not be aware, we had a dictatorship in Spain for 40 years. And our dictator died in 75. So there was a lot of music that wouldn't come through. We weren't a market for rock and roll. There was a lot of rock and roll hits, like, for example, Summertime Blues had to be redone in Spanish for that to be in the radio. And it's a song called Popotitos.
Wow, no kidding.
And there's the same thing with Jailhouse Rock and many other American rock and roll hits and British rock and roll hits. So maybe it was in the 80s when it got more open, and you would our rock and roll elders in my little town would listen to Rory Gallagher and Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, and AC/DC, especially 70s era. And then bands from Spain like Barón Rojo and Leño, and we got into that. But there was a lot of bands that I never discovered till I moved to the US, or that I was aware of, but I had never actually heard their music. Like I was telling you, like a lot of Illinois bands. REO, I had no clue who they were. Chicago, I knew they existed, but I had never heard the song. Same thing with mega bands like Journey. Over there, to us, it was like, since we were into the hard rock thing, we were kind of like scholars of it, and we would study it and look for bands. So it was an underground thing, the AOR thing. Right. So to us, Taiketo and Journey were the same.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There were bands that would write that kind of music. Right. But we didn't know that Journey was so huge. We just knew the music, and we heard it. This is similar. This is cool. We like it, or we don't like it, depending on who you are. But you had to go in depth to find those bands because they were not promoted by their labels in not necessarily in Europe, but in Spain. And also, I'm assuming in Portugal, Greece, Italy also had a bad history of having dictators, and they don't like rock and roll, man. It's impossible to tour. I'm sorry to take time from my fellows, but it reminds me of when Metallica first came to play in Spain. There's the biggest metal magazine in Spain is called Heavy Rock. And it's bigger than Metal Hammer. It's bigger than, at the time, Rip Magazine. And we had to sign a petition. There was 20,000 signatures that we had to send to a promoting company for them to bring Metallica. Because they believe that if we put the Metallica, we bring it to Spain, they're going to charge this much, and we're only going to fill like the 2,000 person venue. Right. And they ended up bringing them to a soccer stadium, and they sold out. Wow. And ever since then, that was with the Black Album. That was their first arrival in Spain, and they had toured Europe before, as you know. I mean, Cliff Burton died in Europe.
Right. So you guys, the first you heard of Metallica was the Black Album.
No, we knew of them.
You knew of them, yeah, but the first time they ever performed in Spain
was the Black Album, and was because fans, the underground fans, forced. There's a crowd here for for this for heavy metal and for hard rock. And we'll turn up, and they had no other choice but to hear us because it meant money to them, and they started bringing other bands, and labels started not skipping Spain anymore when it was time to launch a new single or something. Right, you know?
Right. Was this prejudice against rock and roll music? Was it because of the United States? Was it because of just English speaking countries in general? What prevented? What was it? The mass of people love it, so therefore we're going to control it.
Control has to do a lot with it, but it's also, it carries the label of the music of the devil, which I kind of find funny, and I try to throw it in the lyrics sometimes, like Bon Scott would, for example, right? Because it's stupid, so why not own it and have fun with it, right?
Like Jack Black says, you got to stick it to the man.
Yeah,
that's right.
Rock and roll is about sticking it to the man, right?
Real quick to interject on that, though. We have great friends, and Tony ourselves has toured Spain very recently. And since this is taking place,
of course,
they are diehards. They are great for rock and roll, great crowds. It's like you'd find an American crowd. Everybody wants to hear this great rock and roll, and now that it's opened up, it's really receptive. And Tony could attest to that more than I could.
Well, when did the dictatorship end?
Well, motherfucker died 75 1 year after I was born. So that was
yeah. Well, I know it's a completely different country now. Absolutely. Okay.
But democracy didn't start till I think it was 78.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of passion there for American music, American rock and roll music, blues, jazz, just traditional American music. They just love it. The crowds love it. It's smaller scale for the most part, unless you're a huge band. Right. Like Taran was saying, but overall, like the enthusiasm at these shows that I got to experience were amazing and inspirational, and I can't wait to go back. It's very different than playing here.
Yeah, people don't understand that if you don't go and experience music or just any type of performances or entertainment outside the United States, especially if you go to, actually there's places in the United States. If you go to places, some places in Mississippi, some places in Louisiana, and and areas like that, where they've got like one industry that's controlling the entire area or the entire region. It almost makes those cities, if you removed them from those states, those cities are almost like a third world country in themselves, where everybody works for this one particular factory, right?
Right.
And you have and you don't have a lot of choices. And I've been to some of these areas where, I think it was back in around, it was back in around like, I want to say like 99 or 2000, somewhere around there. And I remember being in Biloxi, Mississippi, and everybody's playing the song Smooth by Santana. And you've got these young teens running around going, oh my God, have you heard this new guy, Carlos Santana?
Right.
And it wasn't even young teens. I mean, there were people in their 20s and close to 30s that are like, how have you not heard of Carlos Santana? You're like in your 20s. Granted, he hadn't put an album out in quite a while at that point, but still, I mean, you had to have seen MTV at one point in time back when they used to play music.
It does say a lot about the exposure level, and that happens all the time, and it still does, especially now. There's no national radio. You have to find it.
Right.
Great stuff out there, but you got to dig, you got to find it.
Right. Right. So we know where you come from. Where are you originally from, and where'd your influences come from?
Born and raised in Chicago.
All right. Excellent.
Still in Chicago.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm out here now, the Joliet area.
Yeah. Cubs or Sox? We have to ask.
I'm a South Side guy.
Okay.
It's a weird thing though. When I grew up, my grandfather was basically my father. I won't get too much into sports, but at 9 years old, we'd always watch the Cubs when I got up from school because that's all you could find. WGN.
Right.
Channel 44 was all static. Shots in the arms. I mean, you can't see anything, right? So it's like, and Chet Lemon's out there scraping his knees in shorts and stuff like that.
Right.
So at 9 years old, I actually made a conscious decision. I'm like, man, 90% of this city is rooting for the Cubs. Yeah. Somebody's got to root for these people. And I'm actually from the South Side. So I'm like, the game of Sox.
Somebody's got to help these wretched people over here.
Although I don't know who's going to help them
baseball
now.
team.
It's really a trouble situation right now.
I was born in Bridgeport.
Well, there you go.
So I think I was 6 years old when I found out that we had another baseball team in Chicago.
I'm a South Sider also.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong Sox fan, but right now, if they really want to go to Nashville, I really don't care. I'm getting really kind of tired of it.
I'm on the same boat with you.
Who's talking about that? Is it the Sox?
Reinsdorf brings it up every so often. You don't build me a new stadium, I'll move them to Nashville. Go.
Yeah, go.
Please.
Go. Yeah, whatever. I think everybody feels that way, it's when the teams start to threaten that. So go.
Yeah.
We'll get somebody back here. You tell me there wouldn't be people knocking on the door to come and have a team in Chicago?
Right. Or put a good product on the field before you ask for a new stadium.
Yeah. Let's bring the original football team back again. I'll bring the Cardinals back to Chicago.
There we go.
Yeah. So anyways,
our drummer is from Bridgeport also. Yeah, we know numerous people from Bridgeport. We're a sort of mixed South Side, North Side, all over the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
I grew up in the South suburbs of Chicago. If you're going to talk about influence as a bass player, I started playing piano when I was about 5 years old.
I knew that was coming because no bass player starts off playing bass. No. I don't think I've ever talked to a bass player. It's like, I started taking bass lessons. No, that doesn't happen.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. My mom's taught piano longer than I've been alive. And, it was basically played the piano from 5 to about 11. Then I picked up the acoustic guitar. And then, you're in junior high and you're in 7th grade. And it's like, well, not anymore. But back then, it's like everybody's playing 6-string. Everybody's playing guitar. It's like, why not play bass? I'll have all these gigs lined up.
Yep.
So I did it. Now it's reversed in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
There's like 12 bass players for every 6-string player. And it's like, how did this happen?
Right.
But as far as influences go back, I mean, it dates back to with my mom playing piano and stuff is the early Motown stuff from Jamerson and Donald Duck Dunn.
Yeah.
Then, progressing on to John Paul Jones, obviously, and, Barry Oakley from the Allman Brothers and even some of the stuff, like just rhythmic stuff where you would hear, like with the Stones, where you'd hear Mick Taylor and Keith just the way they would interplay and Charlie would lay this backbeat and then there's this space in between. If you're listening, which I think all good bands do, it's all about finding where you fit into that situation. And so it was all that, some Stevie Wonder. And then, in the 80s, some Steve Harris, some Geddy Lee and everything, sort of the influences. But I would say my forte of what I like to do is definitely based in the roots of the blues, 50s Americana, 60s English rock, and 70s moving forward from there.
Yeah. And what got you into the metal then?
I is not much of a metal guy. Is that, I was born in 69, so I grew up. So, I mean, Steve Harris and Judas Priest in 1983, Armored Saint, Anthrax. That was sort of cool to be. But at the same token, I still have my roots from my aunt and my mother of listening to, Strangers in the Night.
Right.
Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous. So Robin Shaw, Bridge of Sighs.
Yeah.
So I still had that in me. But I mean, all your friends, when you're in junior high school, they're listening to metal stuff, 80s metal stuff, not heavy metal stuff. But but I mean, as I've gotten older, I mean, obviously my influences, and I think the influence of the band go back to the bands that we grew up on, which is earlier Aerosmith, Faces, the Stones, all that type of AC/DC. You know what I mean? Roll, and I let the other guys elaborate on that because I think they sort of feeling that same way. Go Sox. I meant go to Nashville.
You mentioned AC/DC. I just recently had the opportunity. Somebody sent me a link to an old black and white video of AC/DC. And I don't know if it was true or not, but it said that it was like one of the first shows that they had played together as a band. And this hall that they were in looked like a VFW hall or something and had the 6-foot fold-up tables set up, and there was like nobody there. But they all looked like they were 12 years old. And it was Bon Scott, and they were just a blues band. They almost didn't even sound like AC/DC. They were just up there playing Muddy Waters and all kinds of stuff like that. But you could tell that the AC/DC was about to burst out of whatever was going on in that stage. You could hear it there, but it was very undistorted guitars, and you really heard Bon Scott singing in his natural chest voice, which is a little different than what we're all used to. It was really interesting. If you go on YouTube, if you're AC/DC fans, look for those videos. They were real interesting.
Really quick, Tony could attest to this more. When people do listen to AC/DC, their guitars are not as overdriven as people might think they are.
Absolutely.
It's a more, I mean, and Tony can attest to that more. It's a very...
It's kind of with, the whole process of playing guitar. When you start, everyone's playing, unless usually when you start, you're playing really clean. When you discover rock and roll and hard rock and stuff, you start pouring on distortion. And then you think everyone, that's the sound. Right. They're young ears. You don't really know. And then as you go and you break it down, like, it's the first stuff I played, rock and roll stuff I played in my high school band was, or grade school band actually, was AC/DC, Stones. Maiden played very poorly. Yeah. We thought we were doing it right, but we weren't, things like that, Priest. But it was fun when Dave, our buddy, asked to do this, to start covering some AC/DC stuff, just a bunch of friends doing some Bond stuff. It was breaking down the songs again and realizing that these guys are playing pretty wide open, clean guitars. There's not much distortion at all. Those records are very simple. There's not a lot going on, not a lot of overdubbing. It's what you see is what you get kind of music. And I think that stuff hits the hardest. I love huge elaborate productions for certain kinds of bands and things like that. But on the most part, I just like to hear bands play. Right. And that's my favorite, in any genre.
Yeah. I think you can hear that in our songs. We purposefully record the drums and bass live. Like we're all in different rooms of the studio, but we're playing live, and we don't record them to a click.
Right. Yeah, we play live together all the time. And so even if we don't keep, if someone wants to redo something, of course we can redo it. Right. But we're always looking at it, playing together. Right.
Yeah. So we're trying to go for the flow of the band. And then if there needs to be an overdub, then maybe the solos get done after all the vocals get done after. But the main part of the song, we like to record it live and be more flowing and natural, like back in the 60s and 70s, than more,
like nowadays, a lot of people, record by themselves and send it to someone. Right. Send it to the guy, which is very normal. I understand. Everyone has home studios. You can record at home and do those kind of things. I do think it takes something away from it. But that's just my own tastes of what I like to listen to. And again, depending on the genre, right? And depending on the band and things like that, sometimes I do like very elaborate productions on certain things. But for our stuff, we're trying to keep it pretty meat and potatoes, I think, and just show you what we got. We're adding some color on here on our record. We're going to add some color on there.
Sure.
We have some guests on there and stuff like that. But everything's pretty much, the band.
There's nothing else to see here. There are no tears to shed here anymore. Everyone move along. Move along. There is no one who can hear. There is no blood to spill here anymore. Baby, move along. You were a queen, I was a fool. You had nothing better to do than in my heart with a spoon. And I just wanna see was that a word you hadn't covered before? How can you be so goddamn cold? How can you be so goddamn cold? So goddamn cold.
And we're of course talking about the track. Was it So Cold?
So cold.
Oh,
yeah.
so cold. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's the track that was sent over to us. That's what we listened to.
Okay, yeah, that definitely has a rootsier feel. I could see what you were saying. Well, it's a slide and everything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it had a warmth to the recording, and which my next question was: did you guys record that all digital, or did you put that on tape? How did you guys
I
actually record
record the band. So I have a home studio.
Okay.
Yes, your obligatory home studio. But I have, I've been doing it for a while, and it's all analog. I use the analog front end.
Okay,
I record into the computer.
Yeah.
I use the computer. I am very old school about it. I'm not a purist, but
it was an analog front end.
Absolutely.
And I can tell.
Nice.
I can tell immediately. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, some people can, some people can't. To me, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
And it's what my ears like to hear. And I'm not, I won't even debate what's better. I like analog. I'm an analog guy.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
Yeah. No, I like it. It definitely has a different warmth. I can always tell the difference because I've had the experience
everything's
to do
recorded
both.
on analog, mixed on it. I basically use the computer like a tape machine.
Sure. Yeah. Because I noticed about the guitars, if you listen to it, going back to what you were saying about AC/DC not having a lot of distortion on their guitars. I mean, it's like I could actually hear the strings slapping the frets. I mean, you can actually hear that. And you know what? And some people would say, well, you don't want that in there. Find that frequency and pull that out. No, bullshit. Leave that in there.
Mistakes are awesome.
Yeah.
So how many of your favorite, they're all over the place.
Right.
And that's because they're capturing moments, right? And that's what recordings are supposed to do. What's weird nowadays, I find that before people used to make records to support a tour,
Right.
or a tour to support a record.
tour to
I'm
support
sorry.
a record.
Yeah. And now it's completely the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
The music's pretty much, you put it out there as a promotional device to go
It's like
tour.
it's like a business card.
Yeah. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it is. It really
But
is.
I like the mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, it became a thing, to fix everything.
Right.
Because you can.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, great. I feel everything sounds the same to me.
Right.
Anyone could do that.
Yeah.
Anyone could make yourself sound good.
Right.
Or fix everything.
Everybody can make it perfect. Yeah.
Everyone can make it perfect.
Yeah.
And it gets
compress everything
boring.
down.
Right.
Yeah.
It's part of what rock and roll is, and what our when we started playing together. Some songs were heavier, some songs had more of a pop thing going, and maybe that kind of music, maybe you want to produce it more and fix it more. But we ended up, like Tony would say, we have to find an identity as a band, and we find it there on I think we found it in the 70s. We sound like the Faces and early AC/DC, and then some of it may not fit into there, but that's the core, right? And when you listen to those rock and roll records, part of the charm of them is that they have dirt. They have things that are not perfect. They have, or not even with bands that are kind of like retro. I love this song by the White Stripes where it's just, what's the name of the song? It's just piano. It's a piano ballad. And the dude is playing it live and recording the voice live. And, must be Meg White that drops a jar of forks or something. And it's in the song. He's playing piano.
Yeah.
And it's great. And you're like, what? Let me play that again. That's awesome. You know?
Yeah.
Because if the take is great, why a little mistake, or why maybe the drummer went a little faster or a little slower than in the first verse, now on the second verse, why ruin the whole?
You're supposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
The chorus is kind of supposed to speed up a little bit. Yeah. I mean, well, you know, it's dynamics.
Right.
It's like, why do you want to take all the dynamics out of?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leave a little bit of a live performance in there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think
for
that's
sure.
what we really try to do is live performance, because there's an essence when you're recording. If the bass player is playing a dummy track to the drummer and the guitar players aren't even really playing,
Right.
you know, so then you get the bass player responding to the drummer. Then when the guitar players go to record, they're just responding to what now is laid down.
Right.
If you're all playing together live, I'm hearing the rhythm guitar. I'm hearing what Tony's doing. Then I'm hearing what Adam's doing on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're hearing all that, even though you might go back and punch a little guitar or do something else, you're playing live as a band. So you're feeling what everybody else is contributing to the song vocally, as compared to just laying down bass and drums. Then we're going to lay down the guitars. Well, then the guitars aren't interjecting the rhythmic feel until after the bass and drums have done what they're doing. And
Right.
you've lost sort of the essence of having a full band recording and their live essence of what they're supposed to be about.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There was a, I'm not going to remember the name of the movie, but, it was out many years ago. And every once in a while, when I saw it, I shot a video with my phone and I posted it to Facebook. And every once in a while it pops up on my Facebook page, and it came up about 2 or 3 months ago. But there's a scene where, this guy owns a recording studio and he goes to dinner for the first time to meet his girlfriend's parents and really the whole family. And one of her brothers is a smartass and says, do you really think it's so smart to invest all kinds of money and time into what's pretty much a dying art? And he says, you know, it might be a dying art, but I'll tell you what, owning a recording studio and doing it the way I do is so much better than it is today, because you can't beat the sound of a bunch of musicians sitting around in a circle jiving off of one another.
It's really a special thing.
It really is. It really is.
And I love it.
Yeah.
So I love that experience. I love recording, you know, so, guitar playing is my favorite thing in the world to do, but my second favorite thing is recording music. It's
And
just,
creating.
and creating. Yeah.
So
And
tell
it's,
us about-
it's the interaction.
Tell
with
us
the
about
players.
So Cold. What's the story behind that?
I wrote the music. Taran wrote the lyrics to that. So
I was sitting, it was COVID, and I was sitting outside Loyola physical therapy facility, obsessed about the song that he had sent me. I had to come up with a chorus, and my son was having physical therapy for his back or something, and I'm outside because, you know, you were outside, you have to wear a mask or whatever. And I'm trying to come up with something. And the first thing I came up with was the chorus of that, with the way it is in the album, actually. And the lyrics of it with it. Like, how can you be so goddamn cold? So now I have to write a rock and roll song with that, because it fits so great in the chorus. Now I have to, the lyrics have to,
he has a knack.
Yeah.
He has a great knack for like capturing moods. So, you know, I just send music to him. Hey man, what do you think? I don't really write lyrics. Once in a while, Taran writes 99.9% of our lyrics, by the way. So all the lyrics are coming from him, and he writes a lot of music too, but Adam writes music, I write music, and everyone collaborates on that. And, he just captures, like, he can hear a piece of music and capture the mood of it and lyrically kind of get it without even, I don't suggest anything to him. You know, I want him to just be a blank slate. What do you feel? What do you react from? You know, and some of my songs I might even have lyrics for, but I won't show them to him because he always comes up with something better anyway. You know, so, thank you, sir. And I don't want him to be affected by it. You know, I don't want to. And, you know, when you hear something, it's hard to get it out of the back of your brain sometimes.
Well, in that particular case, then I thought, well, the verse has to fit this, and it has to be. And I remember I was outside in that parking lot, and I moved away from the door because I had to see if I could sing that part that I just came up with, because you come up with it in your head, but maybe it's too high for you to sing now. So I'm in
I don't
between
think so.
cars. I'm in between cars.
I've heard his voice.
Oh, I can sing it. Okay, then I can write I can write the song there. But it's a rock and roll song. It has the slide guitar. It has the verse. It's got that and the pre-chorus is straight up rock and roll Chuck Berry kind of thing, only a little slower.
Right.
So they have to rock and roll lyrics. And when you say to somebody and it has to be a rock and roll lyric, how can you be so goddamn cold? I must be talking to some lady that did me wrong. So that's what I did the lyrics about. You know, sometimes you have to change the world with your words. Sometimes you just have to hit the song and make it quality with the song, with the style. We have other, Coming Up Roses, our second single. The lyrics are more of a social thing going, but not this one. This one is just about guy that got done wrong by a woman.
Because there's not enough rock and roll songs, that touch on that subject matter.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know what? That's part of the.
We got a couple almost love songs.
We didn't reinvent the wheel. We just took a couple spokes out of it.
Yeah, if you're looking for a reinvented wheel, you're definitely.
It's like there's not enough country songs where he crashes his pickup and his dog dies.
The dog died.
But that's part of what we're doing is that to me, to my foreigner's ears and my slightly different way of understanding rock and roll, is that you don't have to change. If you love the style and a song may have been done before by some other people better than you and worse than you, you don't really have to be innovative or a great lyricist to write a lyric to it or write a guitar part, or because the chord progression is probably G to A to D like any other song. Right. So
they've kind of all been done. But I mean, pretty much every song. The
quality,
written, so
the quality sits in the performance and in the nuance, Absolutely. And that's what I love about this band is the nuance, is how the drummer all of a sudden does a little thing on the hi-hat and Ron that Sean does on the bass, and maybe there's a line on that song, for example, you had nothing better to do than eat my heart with a spoon. I've never heard that line before. Yeah, that's gotta hurt if somebody's eating your heart with a spoon.
Which in a way is, I think, even harder to do. So how do you take something that's been around as long as it has? Obviously, again, we're not reinventing the wheel. How do you make it your own? I find that challenging. I find it interesting. And how do you make a band have character playing that kind of music, which we all just absolutely adore, right? So it's like, let's do it. Let's figure out our niche. Right. What's our sound going to be? What are we going to do? What are we going to bring to the table? And that's fun to me. That's exciting and interesting. Keeps me engaged.
Right. Right.
You're listening to the Rock and Roll Chicago Podcast.
Hi, I'm Rick Anthony. I'd like to thank my radio brothers, Ray the Roadie and Hollywood Mike, for allowing me to tell you about my podcast, the Someone You Should Know podcast. We spotlight musicians, authors, and interesting people, and we like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. The podcast is heard twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, and you can check it out on your favorite streaming platforms and on the web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. That's the Someone You Should Know podcast with me, Rick Anthony, making a difference one artist at a time.
I'm Christy from Crime Cave Podcast. I've had a huge interest in true crime since my days of watching marathons of Snapped back in the mid-90s. I needed an outlet to talk about the cases that have haunted me for a very long time. With each episode under 20 minutes, I shine a light on some of the most bizarre cases in the last 50 years. Join me in the Crime Cave.
Or, whereas they say, you can, I don't care what kind of gear you have you can have 100 pedals on the floor. I don't care if you're playing a Les Paul through a Marshall. It doesn't matter. The tone of the guitarist comes from their fingers.
Absolutely.
So if that's the case, then the tone of the band comes from the players.
Great Jeff Beck. Right?
Yeah, it's not your gear. It's not your gear. And how do you make it different? Well, because you have to present it. I mean, your band is unique in the fact that nobody else is going to duplicate your band.
No one can do it. No one can duplicate anyone else.
Right.
That's the beauty of music.
It's like you brought up earlier, Mike. Like you hear Blackberry Smoke in it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Blackberry Smoke. I don't necessarily hear in this band, but we get everything from Guns N' Roses to Cinderella to Stones to Black Crowes to Faces.
Yeah, I'm a huge Black Crowes fan. Blackberry and Smoke and Black Crowes are very close.
It's close.
And Buck Cherry. I mean, those three bands are very similar.
What I like is we get different people suggest different things that they hear out of what we're doing, which means we're not cloning anybody.
Right.
We're putting our own spin on what we want to do. in the basic blues-based roots rock and roll fashion and giving it our best shot at putting our spin on it.
And also another cool thing, we're a 2-guitar band, and Adam and I don't. If you listen, very rarely do you hear us playing the same thing.
Right.
It's a real 2-guitar band, kind of in the Aerosmith style and Maiden style. It's not just dudes playing the same riff to make it heavier. We're actually intertwining, and creating melodies.
Yeah, no, that's good.
That work together, but completely different.
So I see you've got 3 songs here. You got So Cold, your latest. You got Coming Up Roses and What Are You? You guys working on an album? Or
we are.
Are you just, okay.
Yeah, we didn't plan on it at first, but we were like, hey, we'll just make song. A lot of people do it. Let's record some songs, make some videos, have some fun. But we have so much material. And as things started going and we're really digging it, and, we've been a year in now, and we're like, let's do it. Let's do a full length and move on, keep moving forward. So we hope to have that out, not too much longer. See what.
Hopefully fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready to step into the spotlight was in 1988. Oh, if I only had a mirror or a time machine for a dead. I'd say, my, you got a lonely face. My, you better change your ways, yeah. You better learn how to stand for what you're trying to do. Chasing for hours the footsteps on the stage and the fool. What do you want from me? What do you want from life? What are you trying to see?
So
The idea is that the 4th single will come out by the time this podcast is out. It'll be out.
okay.
Oh, yeah, we heard it.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, it was great.
It was
It
very
was
good. Yeah,
fantastic,
we heard it. Yeah.
You got a semi-finished mix of it. It's 95% done.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah. So take a minute. You mentioned Andy. Is the other guitar player?
Adam.
Adam.
So who's missing? How many?
Chuck, our drummer, Chuck Harling.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the whole band.
Gotcha. Okay.
5-piece.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And so you got a drummer and another guitar player.
Yeah.
Excellent. And you guys have you guys all been together from day one, or has there been some personnel changes in that?
This band pretty much, other than feeling it out and getting everyone involved, is
Our very first show.
Yeah, they do one show. Yeah.
It was Adam and I and our friends, Iggs Galajasevic from Hessler was playing bass. And my friend Hugo Ayala was playing drums to fill in for us because we wanted to play this gig opening for The Claws. The Claws is a band from LA whose singer is Chad Terry, which is the singer for the Las Vegas. And Adam is in the Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
So he asked us to open. So we just put the songs together 60 minutes and with these 2 guys.
Okay.
But that's the only show that we've done with a different lineup.
And then I was like, I want to get more involved. It's kind of was talking about earlier. I wasn't 100% committed yet. And then after seeing that show, I'm like, I got to do this. And then Sean was always interested in it. And Chuck I've known since high school. So I was like, oh man, I'd love to. I had kind of played with him on and off a little bit, but not ever in a full on project. So I wanted to see if he was available. He was very busy.
The drummer was the only case where we had to try guys because
we tried a few drummers.
Once after that first show, the first bass player that we asked was Sean.
Okay.
And he already knew about it. He kept asking me to send them in the songs. And we wanted Tony to play the second.
And then once Sean said he was doing it, I'm like, I'm definitely doing it.
Yeah.
We've played in bands for years together. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So after having that,
on and off.
Then the search for the drummer kind of ended because he said, I know this guy, Chuck. He sent us a video of him playing with the Woolly Rhinos in one of his bands, and we liked him and we brought him over, and that was it. So, so that was the only.
And he's a beast. He's great.
Yeah,
awesome.
Good. Yeah. So where do you guys play? What kind of places?
Oh, just Mostly, kind of Chicago clubs. I don't know. Taran, you take care
We
of that.
play
I
right
can't
across
remember.
the street a
Yeah, we
bunch of
played a
times.
Forge.
Oh, have you really?
Oh, yeah.
No, good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
We've done, we do our own shows, but we do shows opening for local nationals. We just did a show with Faster Pussycat, Blacktop Mojo,
Nice,
the
yeah.
Super Suckers, Jason Gain and the Jive. We've played a lot at Reggie's.
Okay.
That's like
Yeah.
Reggie's
That's
is like our second
hometown.
home. Yeah, that's our
I
home
live right
gig.
down the street from there. And
Yeah. So Reggie's is great, but we
and
have
they're
played
great.
shows at the Forge. We love Frank, and I'll let you guys say it for the rest of that.
Yeah, across the street we opened for Blacktop Mojo, and we played a couple of original band nights.
Okay.
with Yet Again and some other bands. And we've done Bourbon Street actually for some odd reason. They did an original band
Nice.
night, and we played it. And we played a bunch of Reggie's gigs.
we
just
do a
op-
lot of city stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Liars Club.
Liars Club. And
We open for Faster Pussycat about the Vixen in McHenry, but normally we are in the city.
we're in the city a lot.
Yeah, South Side.
Play on the once in a while. We'll do like Northman Tavern, like on the lake. It's kind of interesting. They'll have a rock band out there, and we'll catch people coming out from after work. It's a lot of fun in the summertime, but we're pretty much open for anything. You know, everyone's really busy. So we're not super active.
Right.
But yeah.
When you play your own shows, I mean, are you doing all original music when you
Yep.
do your own shows?
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly.
Like 3-hour shows you're doing?
No.
No.
Like the Northman show. What do we do? 2
That's going to
hours?
be at 2 hours.
So we'll add some covers
So,
and something
yeah.
like that.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
jam a little bit.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff do you throw in as a cover to complement?
All over the place.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
instead of keeping it, instead of keeping the content consistent, you throw something in that'll
Well,
make
it
people
is
go, "Holy shit."
consistent, but yeah, we kind of mix it up a little.
We
you
have
know.
we have a couple of covers that are more like, okay, we're going to play a show that's going to be 60 minutes, and we want to throw in a cover.
Okay.
We normally either do Nice Boys
Okay.
by Rose Tattoo, or we do Cowboy Song by Thin Lizzy.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
then-
so those are in theme.
yeah.
But so like
Yeah.
the Northman thing, we might throw in
Yeah.
like what Credence.
If we play a longer,
you know what I
if we
mean?
play a longer thing, we need more jammy songs. So we've done
Yeah.
Roadhouse Blues, we've done
Right,
the Jack, we've done
The Jack, we'll do stuff
Heard
like
It Through the Grapevine.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
Flowers
still
by
consistent a little
Oh
bit.
yeah,
some
and we
Stones
still do it
thing.
kind of our own way. We'll do Dead Flowers, stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So let's see. We're at the end of October. You guys have anything on the calendar for like November, December? You had anything around the end of this year?
No, not right now. No.
Not right now. Still looking for stuff. So if there's some venues out there that need
Absolutely.
a pretty kick-ass original band, give these guys a call. You know,
Always looking.
yeah, and unfortunately, there's kind of a shortage of just all original clubs in this city. I travel all over the country, and I can go to Minnesota, and every bar in downtown Minnesota says, "Yeah, original bands, bring them on down here." But it's not like that in Chicago,
No, it's
unfortunately. Yeah.
So we're very limited in what we can do, So
Yeah.
we have some friends who play in rock bands, not many though. So we were actually at a party the other night, last Saturday, and hey, you guys want to do a show? I go, please.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really hard to find bands, just straight up rock and roll bands to play with. It really is.
It's easier when you're like doing metal or something more extreme, or even in the city if you're more into like maybe punk or even indie.
Yeah. Right.
But to do the stuff that we do, that's kind of like old as you want to.
It's Gen X. It's Gen X or rock and roll, man.
Yeah.
It is.
which is the best kind. I don't know what this crap is they're calling rock and roll nowadays.
Yeah, we're too hard rock for Martyrs. For
Yeah,
example,
we're a little too hard rock
and
for
we are
Martyrs type
and we are
club.
too light for bottom lounge.
Yeah,
so
right.
so it's hard to find bands that kind of fit into what we do a little bit. So when we do, as long as it's rock and it's melodic, we will try to.
And we're very much concentrated on trying to, do some more stuff in Europe. I mean, again, it's a different appreciation for the style.
Sure. Right.
So a lot of my favorite bands, rock bands, European rock bands don't come to the States anymore, unfortunately, because they just can't afford it.
Right.
It's like we love it. We love the crowds. We love the people, but we can, especially in the Midwest is rock and roll, right? I mean, that's where you play.
Yeah.
The coasts are whatever,
Right.
the Midwest is where it's at. And
Yeah.
they're just like, for us to come over here and pay for the touring and all that, we just don't make enough money where they can just bounce around Europe and make a good living.
Especially with the
know?
states taxing the shit out of people coming from other countries to perform here. You know,
Yeah,
it's
they
like,
can't even get in.
yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, just enjoy the fact that there's going to be, you know, a couple thousand more people in your city that normally wouldn't be here, probably going out drinking beforehand and afterwards, and enjoy that. Why would you do that and charge so much for somebody to come here and play a show?
I don't know.
That's just ridiculous.
And we suffer, right? So
Yeah.
but I can't blame them.
So how can people find you guys? What, you have a website?
Yeah, the midnightcalls.com. I think that's what it is.
That's it.
Yeah. Are you on Facebook or
Yeah,
other?
we're on Facebook and
Instagram,
on you know on every
YouTube.
streaming
Yeah, all
platform.
the stuff's
and
on YouTube.
Our latest single just hit 6,000 views on YouTube yesterday, I think.
Nice.
So for us, it's like
6001. I listened to it on the way here.
All right.
6002. I listened to it this afternoon.
We're actually really happy, you know, we're older guys. We've been around, you know, it's like, for a true DIY band, we're really happy about that. So, thanks to you guys, you know, we're getting some support and some people are playing the song and people are liking it. And that's just amazing and motivating. And, we're going to keep putting more stuff out, you know.
I have to go start a band called the DIY Band.
I always want to have one called TBA.
Oh, that's free beer. TBA free beer. Look at that. And the free beers.
Yeah. These guys are playing everywhere.
Hardest working band in show business.
All righty, guys. Well, thanks for coming out. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, man.
Great meeting you guys.
All righty. Take care now.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you.
Well, the midnight called.
The Midnight Calls.
And now they're gone.
With the red sparkling shoes. Yeah, no, they were fantastic.
They are fantastic.
They are a great band. You guys, listen to them. Don't just listen to the stuff that we put here on the podcast. Go and find them on the internet. Listen to them. I want to see a live show because if they are as full as energy as their music would indicate and how lively they were in the studio, that's got to be a fantastic show.
And another original band.
We've been
getting a number of those.
An original Southern rock band, which is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
very cool. They sound great. You got to get out and see them. So that was a lot of fun. And as always, thank you for listening to the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. Check us out every Tuesday for another exciting new episode. See ya. Hey, everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. If you've been enjoying our weekly program, we have great news for you. Just tune in to Road to Rock Radio on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Time, and you can hear a rebroadcast of one of our past episodes. Then again on Thursdays at 7 p.m., you can hear our most current episode brought to you by the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66.
So go to roadtorock.org, scroll down, and click on Radio Station. That'll bring you to the Road to Rock Radio, a station committed entirely to the great music from Illinois, from Chicago blues born on Maxwell Street to today's rock and roll and everything in between. 24/7, all music with its roots in Illinois.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast is edited by Paul Martin. Theme song courtesy of M&R Rush. The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music heard on the show. The music is used to promote the guests that are featured.
Roll, Chicago, rock and roll.